Good day everyone, I'm Wirda and my partner Rebecca would like to discuss on a book titled Teacher to Teacher to Adolescents. This is the second edition by Richard Beach, Deborah Appleman, Susan Haynes and also Jeffrey Wilhelm, in which all of them are university professors based in the United States and Canada. As we all can predict just from the title, this book is about the why, what, how and where in the teaching and learning process of literature. What we will cover in this review are the summary of the book, the points that are discussed in this book, issues that could be raised and also our personal thoughts of the book. Imagine being a novice teacher not knowing what to do or where to begin in a class of 45 students, all looking at you. Scared? Panicking? Well, this book will help you get a mental image in your head on how and where you should start in your literature class. Basically, the book explains the importance and how teachers could teach literature to adolescents. What's interesting about this book are readers are pushed to think of questions and explore things that have been raised in the book that could or would be faced when teaching literature. Personally, we think that this book reaches out to novice teachers who are new in the teaching and learning world. It explains step by step the teaching techniques such as how to understand your students and also what genre should teachers choose to use in class by starting every chapter with the kinds of students that teachers could meet in their professional life. Being in a class of 30 to 45 students, can you imagine each and every student's characteristics and personalities? No, don't worry. By reading this book, you will be introduced with all kinds of students that you could encounter. As we go deeper into the book, the authors make solid reasoning on the different kinds of methods and techniques teachers should use on diverse students. Although this book is based on American students, we are sure that the techniques and methods of teaching could be used in a Malaysian context because the technicality of the methods are universal and the teaching and learning process are all the same anywhere in the world. It's just the materials are different.
However, one of the issues that could be raised in this book is the technique used, which is mostly student-centered, and in Malaysia, teachers mostly use a teacher-centered technique to make sure the student understand the materials by looking at it in a more analytical perspective, since most students have English as their second language. In Malaysia, students are given a specific text based on a scheme which they are required to memorize facts and technicalities for exam, which shows how teachers take control in class. Another point discussed is how authors take note of various aspects that could affect students' behavior, and this teaches readers to take note of all tiny little things that could affect their students, for example, their backgrounds and competencies. Anyhow, another issue that could be raised is the elements that are highlighted in the book that could affect the student which might not be relevant to students here. Students in Malaysia might have different drawbacks that would affect them in learning which the book did not take into consideration, such as their upbringing, by looking into the urban and rural areas or even the culture that is practiced, as there is a diverse communities and cultures in Malaysia. The content of the book also includes evaluating and assessing students in literature. The book includes few dialogues teachers could ask themselves before planning to make sure the lesson suits the kind of student in class and also the goal of the lesson. A few questions that teachers are encouraged to ask themselves and are often highlighted throughout the book are: who are my students and what do I want the students to know at the end of the lesson? In our opinion, these questions are emphasized because the book mostly focuses on students in class. To satisfy the needs of students in class, teachers must often ask themselves, who are my students, to make sure the lesson will be memorable and effective for both parties. Seeing it in a Malaysian context, teachers definitely need to ask themselves these questions to make sure the lesson plan is suitable for students learning English as their second language. Nonetheless, the question of relatability could also be raised, where the materials used and proposed in the book mostly focus on the American history and issue. In Malaysia, we mainly use the American materials as well. This is probably because their materials are more recognizable and there are a whole lot of varieties that can be taken into consideration compared to Malaysia. Hence, several Malaysian issues are overlooked, which also raise the question of the techniques and methods that teachers use to teach Malaysian material. Should teachers use the same or different materials? Overall, our opinion of the book is it will be very much helpful for novice teachers who must still trying to understand the ways of the teaching and learning process, because it covers all kinds of aspects teachers will be facing and highlight possible difficulties that they could encounter in the teaching profession. Out of 5 stars, we think this book deserves 4 stars for the quality in writing, different style of writing which are more interesting, and also the extra mile the authors took to present readers with divergent students. That is all from us. Thank you.